Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Susan Howards, a local Brookline attorney with a practice focusing on criminal defense, domestic violence, elder abuse, trafficking, child abuse, etc. And the Safety Net is a program that's offered by Brookline Interactive Group for recipients and town members, and it also goes out over YouTube concerning those topics and domestic violence. But during COVID, we have expanded the issues that we cover. And today we have a very, very interesting speaker, Jeffrey Wildstein. Jeffrey was or is, I don't know how to say this, Jeff, rabbi 14 years. I assume you still are. He's also a lawyer. He runs a financial management, money managing program, basically for seniors. And I'm going to let him tell you about it because it started with his mom. He is a graduate of Yale and Cornell Law School. He's counseled hundreds of people. He's authored books here and on Connecticut law. And he has a certificate in nonprofit affairs from Hebrew College and Boston University. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeffrey. Jeffrey, are you there?
I'm here, Susan. Thank you for having me today.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. I'm going to ask the first question, which probably is obvious to everybody but me. What's a daily money manager?
And a daily money manager is what I am right now. It's difficult for a lot of people, especially the elderly, to keep up with the day-to-day demands of their own financial matters, their bills, their insurance, their all different sorts of things, and you get everything in the mail and everything in email. Coordinating it is very, very difficult. It's complex. And particularly nowadays when there's more and more complexity, and particularly when COVID has given us more that we need to focus on and need to deal with. And for a lot of elders, this is difficult to manage. A lot of elders, because of health issues, may have difficulty making sure that everything is done correctly and in the right time. And sometimes you have children or other younger relatives who are helping to manage this. And that's great, but it's an incredible demand upon their time. And they may be raising kids too and feel torn in all different directions. A daily money manager is like having your own personal financial assistant. And a person like me, a daily money manager, can help ease the burden and make your day-to-day financial management much, much easier.
How did you get into this, Jeffrey?
I got into this after my father passed away. My dad passed away, and my mother had never done anything with her bills. My dad handled everything, and she had no idea what was going on, how to do it. And quite frankly, after so many years of having my father do it, she was not really that excited about doing it herself and trying to grab a hold of it. So she asked me to do it, and I said yes.
Jeffrey, did you have any knowledge of your parents' financial affairs, or were you just thrown in and you sort of swam with the fish?
I had some knowledge. I spoke to my dad about it, but certainly there was both a lot of grasping onto whatever I had, and also a lot of swimming and just going along as I could. But eventually I learned a lot about it. I found out with my background that this was something that I enjoyed doing, and that this was something that I was very good at doing. I found interesting things that I had not expected and learned how to handle those. And also, I found out that, and I thought back on my 14 years as a congregational rabbi, and I said, I remember people coming into my office and saying that they had this issue or that issue, and often they were about financial matters. And it was some of these that were causing the most anxiety, the most pressure. And I had nowhere to send them. And I said, this is something that I can do to help the elderly and to help families and to help people who are in need have better and less anxiety-filled lives. So
but you do nitty-gritty, right?
I'm sorry?
You do nitty gritty, don't you? You pay electric bills, you pay
Yes.
gas bills, you handle bank accounts, you handle bank statements. Do you do taxes or do you farm it out?
I am not an accountant. I do not do taxes, but I do help prepare information and documents for
Okay.
tax preparers. So right now, one of the things that daily money managers, including myself, are doing is helping people get all of their 2021 documents in order so that when that packet comes from the accountant who says, show me everything and give me everything, it's all in order. But yes, I do bill paying, budgeting, mail sorting, document organizing. I make sure that all those crucial documents that you might need are in a place where they can be found, and even keep copies of them in a very secure location. Saving suggestions, insurance claim processing. I am also a certified Social Security advisor. So I can help people figure out how to maximize their Social Security benefits.
Wow, and you have a very unique background. How does that shape your work every day? You're a rabbi, you're a lawyer, and now you're paying grocery bills for strangers. How do you do it?
Well, one of the things that I think makes me different is the 14 years that I have as a congregational rabbi and 20 years as a rabbi. I have dealt with families and elders in all kinds of situations. And I have learned, and in my experience, it's shown that money matters are not specifically about the money.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
They are really about emotions. They are really about family dynamics. They are really about working out living and figuring out how we can manage all of these demands while at the same time making sure that we're living in peace with ourselves and with our family.
So I'm going to jump in. When you say they're about emotions and about living, I'm sure you must have come across, both as a rabbi counselor, which you probably can't talk about, and as a money manager, families or people who are involved in abusive situations. What are the red flags that you would look for an abusive situation? Say, as a money manager, what would tip you off that, hey, something's not right here?
Usually the red flags come from unexplained expenses.
Really?
So that you're looking at an expense and you see a large or unusual expense that someone has, and I'm looking at their bank statement and I'm looking at their account, and there is something that doesn't seem to fit in with what they're doing. So, excuse me?
For example, if you saw a large car purchase for somebody who no longer drives, I'm being very obvious.
Yeah, that would be a clear one, a large car purchase for someone who doesn't drive, or a regular expenditure, a check being written for a significant amount of money, or even small amounts of money for cash, or to a relative, or to a neighbor, or to even a purported charity. When you look at somebody, when you have an outside person who's there to protect you, and who is ethically obligated to make sure that you're being protected, it helps to have somebody who can take those questions, and who can see their question and raise the issue and go and say, well, what is this? Where is this coming from? Why are you spending this on that? And often that conversation could lead to the exposure of someone who is being financially abused.
I want to go back to when you see that there's something unusual going on with the finances of a senior. Do you directly confront, one, the senior, or two, the caregiver? And what if it's the children and the senior doesn't want to say anything? That has been my experience in my practice.
Right. It depends. and it's a very difficult thing to do. I'm not a mandatory reporter. So
Even as a rabbi?
even as a rabbi, I am not and
Oh,
I'm not acting as
as a rabbi.
a rabbi in this sense.
Okay.
So I'm not a mandatory reporter, but it depends on what is the best way to handle it. Sometimes it's just talking to the senior, and the senior will say, "Oh, I didn't realize," and we can cut it off that way. Sometimes it's talking to the person who is doing it, although again, that can present its own difficulties. Sometimes it is going to the authorities and going to the many fine places that we have that do the investigations, and try to help our seniors and protect them. So, for example, the elder abuse hotline, or the office of elder abuse, or something like that.
What about senior centers in town? I know most towns and cities, not all, because we had quite a to-do here in Brookline, but we have a wonderful senior center. Do you go to senior centers? Would you ever call them for help, or to call the social workers?
If they have a social worker that they're working with, yes, that's another place that I can do. I haven't yet found an appropriate time to be involved with the senior center, but that's another possibility.
Right, right. We don't have too much more time. Is there anything else you would like to discuss as far as daily money management, elder abuse, and what you're hoping to accomplish in the coming days? And how has COVID affected your work? I have to ask that. It's affected all of us.
It certainly has affected all of us. Another big thing that a daily money manager like me does is help watch out for scams. And I know that there's a question about whether or not scams technically fall under the category of elder abuse under Massachusetts law. It differs by state, but certainly I think scams are elder abuse, particularly because so many of them are targeting the elderly. So
But
I
it's
know
also abuse, period. It's just
it
abuse,
is
I would
abuse,
say, of
period.
any age. Right, right.
Right,
So
and
why would
of
we
any age, but we're kind of focusing
an elder? Right,
on elder
right.
abuse. So yes, and the elderly are particular targets, and they are very good at raising anxiety. That is what they want to do. They want to raise anxiety to get you to press that button or to make some kind of mistake. And having a daily money manager like me, who you could call before you press that button and say, "Hey, I got this email," or "I got this phone call," or "I'm worried about this because I've got something in the mail," and I can take a look at it and say whether or not it is something that is legitimate, or whether it's something that needs more investigation, or whether it's something that's a scam. As a matter of fact, I often teach clients, and I've taught one in particular, to recognize them herself, so that when she gets a scam in the mail or a scam on her email, in the beginning, she was calling me just about every day, and now she can
Right.
recognize those scams. And with COVID, there are so many more people looking for a way to separate people, and particularly our elders, from their money and giving nothing of value back.
What do you mean during COVID that it's even worse? What is different during COVID than pre-COVID?
There are a lot of COVID specific scams. For example, tests that aren't really tests, treatments that aren't really treatments, um, uh, products that don't do what they say that they will
You mean
do.
like masks? You mean like masks, Jeffrey? Some of the masks aren't what they say they're.
It's possible, yes, some of the masks,
Okay,
as well as just, particular, sprays or cleaning things that really aren't FDA or government approved, or have no scientific background to say that they are effective. Um, Other things, that use COVID and use the anxiety for COVID
mhm,
to build the concern that for people to get different kinds of insurance, or different kinds of things that quote unquote will protect them, that they don't
mhm.
necessarily need and may not have any value. So these are all different ways. The scammers always are looking for whatever they can to find a way to separate you from your money.
Have you seen an uptick in calls to you during COVID? It sounds like you have.
I've seen more reports of these sort of things that are out there. I haven't seen an uptick in calls to me because people aren't calling me specifically to prevent scams or prevent abuse. But this is something that is part of what a daily money manager does and comes across. So for my clients and for people who would become my clients, that's something that I can help. I can help be a backstop or another set of eyes or another ways to prevent abuse or to stop it if it's ongoing.
Do you do trainings in what we've talked about today? In money management, in scams, in elder abuse? Do you do group trainings?
I have done group trainings. I haven't done specifically on this topic, but as a trained educator for 20 years, and I teach an online course in Introduction to Judaism, it's a great idea, and maybe I'll do that in the future.
Maybe contact some senior centers, particularly maybe here in Brookline. One last question, and you don't have to answer this. Are you expensive?
No, actually, it's an hourly rate. Most people find it very reasonable. I've had more people tell me that I should charge more than I do, than have told me that I overcharge. Much less than you would expect from people who from an attorney or from an accountant.
Jeffrey Wildstein, money manager, rabbi, absolutely Jack or John or Jeffrey of all trades. Thank you so much. I think this is a really important topic and one that we often overlook in the abuse world. We just don't think of the money aspect. And I'm so grateful that you came on today, and I hope that we'll see you again. That's it for the Safety Net. Thank you all.